Thank you for joining me for our first installment of Unnoticed, where I go around my house where I have to stay and I notice some things that typically go unnoticed. And then at the end of it, I'll ask you to do the same thing, and then maybe you could post in the comments below what you discovered about the things that typically go unnoticed around where you live. So a couple days ago, I noticed a little plant popping up in my backyard. Everything's turning green due to the weather, but there was these little things on the ground that typically go unnoticed by me because I don't do a lot of yard work, to be honest with you. But we're going to take a closer look at this unnoticed item. So there's one of them right over here. I'll kind of creep up on them. And you might notice through the blades of grass what I'm looking at right here, this little yellow flower. That's a dandelion. That's not the only dandelion. Creeping along the ground in my backyard, you'll notice, well, they are practically everywhere, and this is a very small portion of my yard. Got some hanging out by themselves, low, in little bunches, and this one has got a little friend with it, a honeybee coming out to play this time of year. So what are these things, and what can we learn or notice about them? So I picked this dandelion, and some people think that the name comes from the bright color and the feathery-like quality or the hair-like quality of the flower, like this is the mane of a lion. That's why they call them dandelions. That's not exactly it. So a dandelion actually gets its name from these leaves right in here. So if we pull one out, you can see how they have jagged edges. And dandelion is actually an English mispronunciation of the original French name, which came from dandelion. I'm not even saying it right, I'm sure. But what that means is lion's tooth. So to the people that gave the name to this plant, this part of it right here appeared to be like lion's teeth. So it has nothing to do with the yellow flower or the mane-like quality of the flower itself. So this bunch of dandelions over here is distinctly different from these bunch of dandelions over here. Should we do it again? Let's take a look again. So what did you notice? You might have noticed that the large bunch of dandelions looked like that, and then there was a few on the other bunch that looked like this. But it's the same time of day for all of them, so why might that be? So that first bunch of dandelions was right here, and the second bunch was right underneath this trampoline. So not to insult your intelligence, but you might have noticed under the trampoline there's shadow, and outside of the trampoline there's direct sunlight. So dandelions are pretty smart. They open up and meet the morning sun, and until they're hit with the sun, they usually stay closed, and they close up at night to keep warm. This was the first dandelion we looked at, and it's got a little companion right here, and as you could probably tell, as opposed to those ones over there, these ones are still in the shade, and therefore they're closed until they get hit with the sunlight. And this little specimen right here definitely has the quality of lion's teeth. You can see them all down these right here. So what else about the dandelion? Well, the dandelion is extremely resilient, and it pops up no matter where it is. As you can see, there's a lot of dead grass around this dandelion, but it's still vibrantly green and very brightly colored in the flowers. So dandelion is not designated as a weed, but you can see why some gardeners would consider it a weed, because they're trying to grow strawberries, they're trying to grow tomatoes, and it doesn't really matter where you're at. Once there's a dandelion seed dropped onto the ground, it has a fantastic chance of germinating and then growing. But it has some of its own uses. So aside from it being a really good source of nectar for honeybees, which is a good reason to keep them out and not pick them all in your yard, they also have some industrial applications. So car tires, plane tires, truck tires, Jeep tires are all made out of rubber, which comes from the rubber tree that's grown primarily in Southeast Asia. So if you and everybody else you know likes getting stuff, that includes food, and water and anything else you might want, then we need rubber trees. Those 18-wheelers out on the highway shipping all that cargo have 18 tires made out of rubber, and if they didn't have that, they wouldn't be rolling anywhere. Those multi-ton airplanes that land at the Yakima Air Terminal here or at SeaTac, they have to have something to land on. Tires, rubber. If your family has a car and you ever go anywhere, you drive anywhere, you need tires, rubber. If you need to erase all the mistakes that you made on your work and not just scribble them out like some lazy person, then you need erasers, you need rubber. So Continental is working with some engineers, some chemical engineers. They have a laboratory, and what they're working on is taking dandelions and trying to make rubber out of those. So I don't know if you'll be able to see it here. If we pick off the stem, no, I don't think it's going to show on camera. Well, a little bit. There's some moisture that comes out of the stems of these dandelions, and that's part of the process. So just like the latex coming out of the rubber trees, this is a very similar chemical. There, you can see it there. And Continental is working on planting and then harvesting and extracting that juice from inside the dandelions to turn it into rubber the same way you do with a rubber tree. So as Mia Anderson knows, another thing you can do with these is you can eat them. A lot of people involved in urban foraging will eat dandelions. Yeah, that's salad right there. Now, this might be more of a garnish, I'm not really sure. But here's the disclaimer on eating dandelions. Something you must keep in mind at all times. This guy right here owns this yard. I said it's my yard, it's really his yard. And if you notice, he shares the space with all those dandelions you see out there in the back. Not a very polite animal. He doesn't have a concept of yes or no. I haven't trained him very well, but even if I had, this little thing right here is sometimes a target for him, and it's very likely that you can find dog pee on this. And even if you don't have a dog, if you listen in the background, you'll hear some chirping maybe. Might be too far away for you to hear. But those birds also just kind of drop wherever they want to. And so you can get little speckles of bird poop on this and also on the green of the plant. So here's the disclaimer. Wash your salad before you eat it. So you might be thinking, Mr. Roberts said this is edible, and to some degree it is, but you need to go out and wash them first, because they could have bugs on them, they could have dog pee on them, and other things that you would find outside. But maybe most importantly, like anything else when you're trying it for the first time, you need to get parent permission. Ask mom and dad, aunt or uncle, grandma or grandpa about this. Because if you've never had a dandelion, how do you know that you're not allergic to it? That's the other side of this. So don't just go outside and grab a dandelion and eat it. You need to check this out first. So these are the three most identifiable parts of the plant. Here's the leaf, here's the stem, here's the flower. This part right here would not be a part that you want to eat. So get rid of that. So the flower and the leaf are the edible portions. And if you did decide to give it a little nibble, you want to keep it little. Dandelions are not a meal. It's a little nibble, that's it. And the last application we'll discuss of this plant is medicinal. So in its Latin name, it has the word office in there, which refers to like a doctor's office or a pharmaceutical center. So for thousands of years, dandelions have actually been used to create different kinds of medicine. What kind of medicine? I'm not sure, but you could look that up. So thanks for joining us for this episode of Unnoticed. Please like and subscribe down below. And in the comments area, please leave a note about something that is very common around your apartment, house, or home that you decided to notice, and one interesting fact about that typically unnoticed item. We'll see you next time.